Like Taylor Swift, I am currently being silenced by Scooter Braun, and today I am standing up for myself and I am saying, Scooter Braun, I don't care how shisty, schemy, and evil you are. Nothing will ever stop me from speaking poorly upon your name every day for the rest of my life. So, if you want to know why Scooter Braun is trying to come after the Swiftologist and you want to know what I'm going to do about it, then keep on watching. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Zach. I'm the Swiftologist, and I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture. On this channel, I like to take an analytical look at, the goings on in contemporary society. I'm interested in celebrity culture. I'm interested in music, and my name is the Swiftologist, so obviously, naturally, I'm interested in Taylor Swift. I am known for doing emergency videos, responding very quickly to something that happens. I'm not used to doing an emergency video in response to something that happened to me, and yet here I am. So here's what happened. Scooter Braun Projects LLC issued a copyright strike against my video, Everything You Need to Know About Scooter Braun versus Taylor Swift, brackets, she ended him. So true, spot the lie, can't be found. He issued a copyright strike against this on December 14th, and this video was uploaded in August of this year. It didn't really get a lot of views either. It got like 80,000 views. That is a drop in the bucket compared to the public slandering that has been going on in every which direction, rightfully so, on his name. So I think that this is a pretty weak and pathetic attempt to try and exercise some control over the public domain and really try and get people effectively to stop talking about him, because he couldn't even copyright strike any of the content that I used in my video because I didn't use any pictures or videos or deliberately misquote him or anything like that. What he got me on, his company, I should say, what his company has copyright struck my account for is using a photo that they own in the thumbnail image. I use photos from all around the web in all of my thumbnails all the time, and I significantly transform them. This, in my opinion, falls under the fair use definition, which is where you are allowed to use copyrighted materials if you change them sufficiently and substantially to make them your own. I flipped this photo, I changed all of the brightness and the contrast, I also moved it around and chopped it up, and I put other images over it. It's really a photo of Scooter Braun with his two clients in the background, and the purpose of the video was to talk about how all of his clients are jumping ship and leaving him because he is an ineffective manager who is essentially toxic waste to anybody's brand at this point. It was a video about that, and isn't it so convenient that that is the video that he wanted to give me a copyright strike on? That's the copyright that he cares so much about protecting, this teeny tiny small image? No, we all know that it wasn't about the image. It was trying to make the point that, smaller creators should be intimidated or scared of Scooter Braun because he can use all of his legal resources to effectively shut you up and silence you. But this is the Taylor Nation. This is not the DPRK. We do not live in North Korea, and Scooter Braun is not my Kim Jong-un, so I will not be listening to him. And I'm going to really draw from Taylor Swift's beautiful and inspiring mantra, which is people underestimate the lengths at which I will go to inconvenience myself in order to prove a point. So I'm going to inconvenience myself by giving you a little rundown of everything that I think about Scooter Braun and how terrible of a human being he is. Happy to say that. I will not use any images of him or any of his copyrighted material in this. I will just share my opinion that he's trash, introduce you to some excellent original reporting by Business Insider that further demonstrates how trash he is, and also I will be attaching the original video at the end of this video. So if you want to see the original video that Scooter Braun so desperately wanted to take off the internet that I had made about him, then just stay tuned because it's being re-uploaded right now. Getting a copyright strike is actually very serious for a YouTube channel. It's 3 and then you're out and you lose access to your YouTube. I am really trying to make a career out of this, so to lose my YouTube account would be something truly terrible and also would deprive all of my audience from being able to hear from me on the platform they've come to know and love. And to lose it over someone like Scooter Braun would be truly a disgusting, horrible twist and turn of events. But again, the fear of losing my YouTube account will not stop me from saying what I want to say and talking as freely as I want to about how terrible and trash of a human being Scooter Braun is, because he deserves it. And I only speak facts and spew evidence and point to the events that happened in the real world to make my claim. It's not my fault that you have a recessed chin and a receding hairline and you need to go to Turkey and get a hair transplant and a chin augmentation immediately. That's not my problem. That's on you. And you should stop taking it on the small creators like me and Sloan, who was another, I think, pop culture commentary. I'm not super familiar with his content, but he also received one of these bogus notices from Scooter Braun. And I think that his maybe had a little bit more claim because he used videos in his video itself. But mine is literally because of the thumbnail. YouTube, how are you letting someone take down an entire video because of a thumbnail? I can just change the thumbnail and you can leave the video up. But no, YouTube doesn't support their creators in that sense. Basically, anyone can file a frivolous copyright claim if they want want to try and make it look and disguise it as a legal claim. And I, would assume that my claim would hold up in court, that it was in fact fair use, and I substantially changed the image in order to make it my own and to create something new for the purposes of commentary. But I don't even really get the option to pursue that directly. I have to file a counterclaim through YouTube, which starts a legal process, and I don't even really know what that entails. Plus, I don't think this is worth it. If I wait 90 days, the strike will expire. I just have to complete copyright school. But you know what? Scooter Braun is a little weasel rat face for making me go through that just because you didn't like what I had to say. It's pathetic, loserish, insecure middle school boy behavior to try and iron fist someone and to not say mean things about you anymore. The other option that you have with a copyright claim is to reach out to the claimant directly and have a conversation with them. I'm not going to do that because the email that was given to me in this YouTube copyright claim is a bogus email that leads to nothing. I've searched up the name of the law firm that is in this gmail.com address. Any reputable business is not using @gmail.com, by the way, for their domain name. But I Googled the name that was included before the @gmail.com and the thing doesn't exist. So this is very clearly just a frivolous attempt to get this content taken down and giving me no option to actually argue my case back. But that doesn't matter because Scooter Braun, you have successfully and idiotically Streisand affected something that people didn't pay that much attention to begin with, because now I'm never going to shut up about it. So copyright strike from Scooter Braun, Swiftologist, plotting on your downfall every day for the rest of my life, period. And speaking of, I had really slacked on saying my prayer, so why don't we say my prayer now? Dear Lord, I'm going to leave Scott Borchetta out of it today because we have bigger fish to fry. Dear Lord, please ensure that Scooter Braun has a terrible day and make sure that he continues to live the punishment that is his life. He has no wife, he has no clients, he has no friends, and that is enough punishment as it is. You don't even really need to do anything extra to him because he's already living in an eternal hellfire of his own making. Amen. It is very unfortunate for Scooter Braun that the only way that he knows how to win is by making other people lose or riding the backs of what other people have created. The saddest thing about Scooter Braun is that he has in fact contributed absolutely nothing of note to this world. He will not be a name that is remembered in the history books so much as he would like to claim. He apparently wanted a career in politics. That's never going to happen because he's never going to win a popular vote because Taylor Swift has successfully destroyed his name. But there really is a culture of fear and intimidation surrounding Scooter Braun, and he has long been using these shady, irritating, and you know what, I would say borderline morally reprehensible tactics to get people that are critical of him to shut up. And I really am not one of those people to take things lying down. So why don't we delve even further into why Scooter Braun is a terrible person in this video than I did in the last one that he copyright struck to take off. His social capital is completely in the toilet. He's done in the music industry. He might be able to work behind the scenes. I know he has his investments, but Taylor literally ended his career and no one else, including me, needs to lift a finger. She very wisely said to him, don't you know that cash ain't the only price? Yes, you will have all the money in the world, but you will be miserable and no one will like you. So are your piles of money going to give you a hug and a kiss at night? I don't think so. Taylor couldn't take away his millions, but she could make him a pariah to the entire world and to the industry that he cares so much about. And you know what? You deserve it, Scooter Braun, you hair plug needing scallywag. So the Business Insider article that I am about to reference actually talked a lot about how Scooter Braun's camp and team tried to intimidate and harass them throughout the reporting of this article. So you should definitely read it because it's a very illuminating look into what it's like to actually have to deal with him. Nobody wanted to speak on the record because they were so afraid of his prolific litigiousness. Someone said, I've never seen anyone burn so many bridges with so many people. And did you know that he started his career selling fake IDs at university? I mean, pathetic loser behavior from the jump. Something that is referenced over and over again throughout this article, and what I think makes Scooter Braun such a bad manager, so bad at what he does, is that he wants the limelight. This is the quote: while other managers are content to fade into the background, Braun has always sought the limelight, multiple people said. And I think that this has been his complete undoing. His insistence that he is some do-gooder, inspirational speaker. The man has no sauce and no charisma. All he has is money. He's not a likable person. Anytime I've ever seen him speak, even before the Taylor Swift thing happened, he just came across as kind of like a sleazy slime ball. And you can't fix that. Money can't fix that. Money can't buy you a new personality. If it could, Scooter Braun would be way more successful and well-liked than he is right now. He has been known to plant negative stories about other people in order to make his clients look good. A famous incident of this is Lil Twist, I think is a rapper who was friends with Justin Bieber, who repeatedly had negative stories planted about him in TMZ by Scooter Braun in order to make Justin Bieber look better or to absolve him of some reputational ruin for doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. Now, I don't like Todrick Hall. He has his own issues, but Todrick Hall is one of the only ex-clients of Scooter Braun that has come out and spoken about how manipulative and coercive he is to work for. And so I'm going to quote directly from the article here. Scooter became upset when Todrick Hall did this elaborate project. I think it was something to do with the Wizard of Oz, where he was Dorothy, and it was the story of his life somehow. Braun threatened to get his YouTube channel removed. Does it sound familiar? If he didn't delete the unflattering references to him. 3 people also said that Braun also demanded that Todrick Hall list him as an executive producer, even though he hadn't been involved in the visual album at all. He refused to remove all the Scooter references, and the two of them don't work together anymore. It's all about control, controlling everyone's image and everyone's narrative, one of the people said. It's crazy to me that he's still so fixated on trying to exercise some control over his public image when it is damaged beyond repair. Like, there's no hope for you. You're over. You're finished. And the Taylor's Version project isn't even done yet. When that's done and the eventual Taylor Swift making of documentary comes out, it will only invite a fresh wave of harassment, and he deserves every single little bit of it. And this is what the reporter experienced while trying to work on this story. Insider experienced firsthand the lengths to which Braun would go to preserve his public face. He declined to speak on the record, so he wouldn't give them a formal interview, but early in the research stage, the company received multiple threatening letters from his Hollywood attorney, who was famed for his fire and brimstone missives to journalists. Singer said that Insider's reporting was an attempt to distort Braun's hard work, dedication, and success into a defamatory smear. No one needs to distort your success into a defamatory smear. You did that yourself, doll. Later, after combing through years of my personal social media posts, as well as articles I had written as a culture writer for New York Magazine, Singer wrote a letter suggesting I had deep ties to the Taylor Swift camp, noting that I had written approximately 15 positive stories about Taylor Swift in my career. Singer also falsely claimed I had once been invited to a Taylor Swift listening party. It's giving obsessed. It's giving obsessed. It's giving delusional. It's giving dictator. It really is giving Kim Jong-un in a way that is deeply troubling to me, but also hilarious because Scooter Braun doesn't have half the power that Kim Jong-un has, as he would like to believe. People who have had dealings with Braun in recent years describe a person consumed by his own larger-than-life vision of himself, who chased money and power so far down the road that he lost sight of all else. Someone who had worked with Scooter said, viciously, people with the most severe addiction problem will never understand how absurdly powerful an addiction to fame is. It's the single most wicked, evil, and disastrous addiction that you can think of. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, and that sort of power, once you have it, is the closest thing to impossible to give up. And Scooter's penance and punishment for the rest of his life is that his power will only continue to dwindle. This social capital, this ability to silence people, this ability to send intimidating letters and have people actually feel scared enough by what he can do to them reputationally is going to completely dissipate because nobody believes a word that he says. No one believes that he's a good businessman. His big deal that he did with Taylor Swift's masters completely fell apart. I mean, it's humiliating. It's a punishment to be Scooter Braun at this point. And you know what? Scooter, I hope that you find peace. Actually, no, I don't. You don't deserve it. And I will continue to tell you that every day for the rest of your life. Well, that's all that I have. I just wanted to get on here and make my point and show you the video that Scooter Braun doesn't want you to see. Here it is. Scooter Braun, noted thief of Taylor Swift's master recordings, is about to have his pathetic, sad little life tumble like the house of cards that it is all around him. His major clients have dropped him from being their manager, and he's going to face what I think is a seismic reckoning, and it is all due to the power of Tay Voodoo. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Zach. I'm a Swiftologist, and I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture. Now, this is an emergency video. I don't usually make videos in the middle of the week, but I had to come to the Taylor Nation and do my breaking news, messy boots on the ground reporting because something bad is going to happen to Scooter Braun. It is pretty seismic that his major clients, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, allegedly Justin Bieber, although there's been some back and forth about that. I have my speculations on why there's been back and forth about that, and I will, give that information to you as we go along. But it's pretty bad news that all of these clients dropped him on the same day. It signals to me that some damning allegation or incrimination is going to come out. And again, that is just a supposition. That is not me stating a fact. I know that Scooter Braun tends to be pretty litigious. So in fact, anything that I assert about Scooter Braun that he didn't actually say on this video is merely an opinion, not a speculation or a fact. First of all, our prayers were answered, Swiftologist. So I think that we need to just say one more prayer to lock it all in before we get right into how exactly these prayers were answered. Dear Lord, thank you so much for continuing to bless us with your bountiful harvest, ensuring that Scooter Braun will never see another day of success or happiness in his life. Amen. And Scott Borchetta, you're next. Crossing Taylor Swift is one of the dumbest things anyone can ever do due to this special gravitational force, this law of the universe I have mentioned, which is called Tay Voodoo. It's stronger than any one of us mere mortals, including stronger than Taylor Swift herself. She can't really control how it moves through the world and wreaks havoc upon those who encounter it. All she can do is send it out. And boy, when she sends it out, you better start running, ducking, covering, going far away, making your amends before it can come back around, as she might say in her song Karma. Can we think of some contemporary examples of victims of Tay Voodoo? Carly Kloss, brunette. married to a Kushner. Katy Perry, retired pop star. John Mayer, fading into obscurity after being, the it boy of pop music for a long period of time. Kim Kardashian, relevance and star power slowly but surely dulling. Kanye West, the need I say more. Scooter Braun, about to maybe go to jail. Would you take on Taylor Swift as an enemy? Would you do her wrong? Even scarier about this current iteration of Tay Voodoo, which I think is its fullest expression because she's never targeted the Tay Voodoo at someone as strongly and powerfully as she has. The scariest part is all of these weird and spooky coincidences. For example, 4 years ago to this day that this news is coming out and something bad is clearly imminently going to happen to Scooter, Taylor announced on Good Morning America that she would be in fact re-recording her albums and reclaiming her life's work back from the person who stole it from her. And 6 years ago to this day, I think there's maybe a day, give or take, but there's something in the water around this week of time. 6 years ago, the snake appeared on her Instagram after her social media blackout before she announced her album Reputation. And I would argue that the snake motif, when she reclaimed that moniker, that is when the Tay Voodoo really started to come into play. And she, altered the forces that be in this universe to ensure that every action against her has a disproportionate, not equal, opposite reaction. Cross her and face the consequences. Taylor as a narrator has always been super interested in karmic retribution, in justice, in righting perceived wrongs, in doing her vigilante, what it says on Midnights. And that's why it's also delectable when her personal vendettas get assuaged. There are many instances in Taylor's plethora of beefs that she's had over the years where I can definitely confidently say that Taylor shoulders some blame. But in the master recording scenario, though, I do have some quibbles with the timeline of events that she's presented. She was completely and totally wronged by all parties that were involved in this acquisition and this transaction. Scooter Braun really, in his immense arrogance, thought that money, mere money, just buying her work out from her could overpower Taylor Swift. That buying her life's work, he would render her less powerful in the industry and elevate his own stature. He has long been a megalomaniac who touts his accomplishments and is a really public and forward-facing manager in a way that's very unusual for people that are supposed to have more backseat driver, behind-the-scenes, lever-pulling mechanisms. Even if there are very powerful and forceful publicists and managers, you usually don't know their names because their job is to stay behind the scenes. But Scooter has always been more interested in creating a cult of personality around himself that I think, has always been very inauthentic and very insincere. And that is only just coming to light the further along that he goes in his life. He also has a reputation of not treating his artists very well, specifically the artists that he doesn't devote all of his full attention to. I think Carly Rae Jepsen and Tori Kelly have both had various kind of negative experiences with him shelving them or, putting them aside to support his bigger artists like Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande. Ariana parted ways with him recently, but she had parted ways with him before, during the Dangerous Woman era. And when she came back to him, she was overworked to the point that she was crying on stage all day, every day. Justin Bieber has canceled multiple tours while being overworked under Scooter Braun. But despite all of this, he is still no match for the Tay Voodoo. That's what he didn't consider, that the ingenuity, the creativity, the focus, the hard work, the calculation, and the dedication that it took for Taylor to make and build those first 6 records and create these parasocial relationships with her fans and, garner all this goodwill in the industry, he never thought that that would maybe overpower his money and come back and bite him in the ass. So I really hope that he gets those hair plugs and that chin implant soon, because if he ends up going somewhere, going away for a really long time because he did something really bad, then he's going to want to be looking good for it. In today's video, I'm going to give you a recap of all the events, what's happened so far, and speculate about what's coming next. Whatever is going to happen next also was heavily foreshadowed on Midnights. I touched on this quite in depth in my almost hour-long video analyzing karma because I think it's such a fascinating example of how the Tay Voodoo works in real life. So if you're interested in hearing more about this topic, go and check out that video and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're interested. And if you like these thoughtful conversations about pop culture, I highly suggest you go to my Patreon, patreon.com/swiftologist, and check out my podcast, The Evolution Snake, because these are the kind of conversations that we have on there all the time, and it's very likely that we will be covering this developing story on the podcast imminently. So before we can get into the full timeline of events, I want to just stress and explain to everybody what a master recording is, why people care so much about them, why this legal case has become so significant, both in popular culture, not just in the Stan Wars stratosphere, also for legal scholars and politicians. This case has presented a lot of interesting issues about ownership, copyright, and IP in creative spaces. So a master recording is the original recording from which all the copies of a song or an album are made. It's the final mixed and mastered version of a track that's used to produce all formats of subsequent reproductions, like a CD, a digital download, a streaming audio file, and a vinyl record. Owning the master recordings is really significant because it gives the owner of those recordings the rights to reproduce, distribute, and monetize that music. And the owner of the master recording can license their music for various uses, like in commercials, movies, artist samples, and they receive the corresponding revenue and royalties. So in traditional record deals, because the music industry has a lot of predatory contract law and practices, the record label owns the master recordings. And this arrangement allows the label often to control and profit from the music long after an artist's contract has ended. That's why Taylor Swift, when she was renegotiating her contract, really made sure to raise awareness about the importance of writing your own songs and owning your own master recordings in order to have some agency and control over the work that you create, so that no young artist ever has to be put in a position like she was put in, where she had to see all of her hard work ripped away from her by someone that really had not her best interests at heart. Now let's get into a recap of the events. So Scott Borchetta, who is the head of Big Machine Label Group, which was Taylor's initial record label when she signed her very first record deal at age 16, he wrote Taylor a contract for 6 albums in 2006, which she signed and relinquished control of her master recordings to him and his label. According to Taylor, after Reputation, her 6th and final album in the contract with Big Machine, Taylor knew that the label was going to be sold to another party. She was given the option to consider buying the label wholesale, but she didn't want to buy the label. She just wanted to buy her masters. But Big Machine Label Group would not have been able to facilitate a profitable sale without her recordings. So there was no way they were going to split those two things apart. It was too valuable to keep them all together. And Scott wasn't really willing to let her buy back her masters because of that. She asserts that the only option she was given to buy back her music in this scenario without having to buy the entire label was to earn back the albums one at a time by turning in one new album for every old album that she gave back. And that would effectively lock her into another 6-year contract with a label that was already kind of clearly showing her they didn't value her contributions to begin with. Rightfully, Taylor saw this as a bad business move, and she chose not to indulge in that request. Instead of choosing her past, she chose her future and decided to walk away from her master recordings. She signed a new deal with Universal and Republic in which she owned all of her master recordings going forward. And this is all taking place kind of at the end of the Reputation tour, mid-2018 to late 2018. When she announces the new deal, there isn't an initial sign of bad blood. It seems like everything is kind of like on good terms between Scott Borchetta and Taylor Swift, but she does make note of how important it is for artists to own their own work and to pursue that in their contract negotiations upfront. In June of 2018, the Wall Street Journal reports that Scott and Scooter are conspiring to transfer ownership of Big Machine Label Group and Taylor's work to Ithaca Holdings, which is Scooter Braun's holding company, for $330 million. In a joint announcement, the companies claimed that the buyout creates one of the most powerful label management, streaming, publishing, and media companies by combining complementary services, artists, executives, and expertise. Did anyone actually detect or feel the power of that partnership? Did anything positive come from it? No, it didn't, because the Tay Voodoo jumped in front of the bus. So in this article, Scott and Scooter are effectively gloating. There's photos of them like drinking whiskey together and celebrating this acquisition, with absolutely no mention of Taylor Swift, the artist who built the backbone of this company that is being transferred from one man to another. And they are literally celebrating the pilfering of a young woman's life work. It's honestly disgusting. And the partnership, as I mentioned, did not prove to be powerful at all. It was a flop. Scott kept extolling what a great person Scooter was, which was no doubt to Taylor's despair and aggravation. She felt very betrayed, not by the fact that he sold her masters, but specifically who he sold them to. Taylor said she had no idea that Scooter was buying her masters until the sale was announced. She has characterized his conduct towards her over the years throughout the industry as bullying and manipulative, not just to her, but also to people in her orbit. I think most notably, we can see that he has had a pretty negative impact on Selena Gomez. So this is all going down very poorly. The Scooter media affront, however, is in full force. He is known to have a lot of heavy connections to the media. Many of his clients and competing artists to his clients have come out and said that he has an outsized influence and ability to be very litigious and also to plant stories in the media. So we're seeing a lot of puff pieces going up about Scooter Braun around this time, which is no surprise because, again, he's a megalomaniac, he's obsessed with boosting his own ego. Even though the man does not have one single discernible talent or likable quality, he still is like somehow convinced that he deserves to, be the most important man in the music industry, when really he's just some guy that bet on an 11-year-old boy. His artists start jumping to his defense. Justin Bieber gets involved. It's all looking very kind of not good for Taylor at this moment. She's really being ganged up on, and the industry is reporting on this phenomenon quite widely. As she mentions in her Billboard Women of the Year speech in 2019, people are kind of afraid to speak up against him because they need something from him, and he needs something from them. Taylor calls Lover, her first album with Republic and Universal, her healthiest record, and she is encouraging everybody to go stream and buy that. And when she is invited to perform at the AMAs of that year, during her Artist of the Decade performance, she claims that Scooter blocked her from performing her music and using her work in the Miss Americana documentary. What happens after this is Taylor begins a pattern of using the public goodwill that she's built up over the years to tell the truth about what's happening behind the scenes, cut through the manipulative good guy spin that Scooter is trying to peddle over the years, and use her following to unleash a form of Tay Voodoo. Here's what she said about him at her Woman of the Year speech in 2019. I'm fairly certain Scooter knew exactly how I would feel about the sale, and let me just say that the definition of toxic male privilege in our industry is people saying, but he's always been nice to me, when I'm raising valid concerns about artists and their rights to own their music. And of course he's nice to you. If you're in this room, you have something that he needs. The fact is that private equity is what enabled this man to think, according to his own social media post, that he could buy me. But I'm obviously not going willingly. The gloves were off at this point. The voodoo had been sent out, and once it enters the universe, it takes on a life of its own. And boy, in this scenario, it sure did. So very shortly into his relationship with his new purpose, Scooter realizes that pissing off Taylor Swift was the wrong thing to do and was not, in fact, a good business decision. So he decides to sell her master recordings to Shamrock Holdings, who Taylor declines to cooperate with, Scooter's continued ties with them. She also claims during this period that she kept trying to buy her masters, and her team kept trying to negotiate with them to get control of them back, and Scooter kept trying to lock her into these NDAs that would stop her from ever speaking freely about the acquisition before she could even get to an offer, when her team was trying to dig into the financials of the company that had bought her masters. So again, she bets on her future. Instead of signing away her right to speak, she reiterates her intent to re-record. The reason why she can re-record is because she's a songwriter, so she owns the publishing rights. After a certain amount of time has passed, she can re-record the music to her heart's content, basically, making exact carbon copies, which is what she did. According to sources that have done external reporting on this in the years that have happened, Scooter thought that she was bluffing. Oh baby, you should have done your due diligence on your own investment, as if Taylor Swift would joke about her life's work, please. If you know anything about her, it's that first of all, she cares very deeply about writing her own music, and second of all, she loves to hold and fulfill a grudge. Reporters that have tried to investigate Scooter Braun's role in this have been threatened with litigation over the years, and also intimidated and slapped with frivolous lawsuits. So while Scooter is still battling this bad press, Taylor releases Red and Fearless to widespread critical and commercial acclaim. And what's so funny is that the Tay Voodoo continues, because each and every time she re-records a new album and we're all going la-di-da, we're enjoying, we're being nostalgic, we're going back to, times that have gone past, and we get to reminisce and meet this old Taylor with this new Taylor and have all this new content. The very underpinning and the heart of that excursion is to remind everyone that Scooter Braun is garbage, that he forced her into this position where she had to do this. So talking about ownership and master recordings every single time she releases a new album and gets all this attention for it only makes her look better, because it shows that what she really cares about is protecting her own music and the right to celebrate and acknowledge the work that she did made by her young self. Wanting to own something that you created is a feeling that everyone can relate to. No one can relate to wanting to take that away from someone else, which is why there was such a clear hero and villain narrative here. Not to mention Taylor's years of painting herself as an underdog. This really kind of was just a natural progression. In September of 2022, 3 years later, this fool finally admits that he acted arrogantly and could have handled the sale differently. You think. He's referring to the various jabs that he spewed at Taylor. Back when he thought that the Tay Voodoo wouldn't come and get him in the middle of the night, he literally gaslit her and questioned her own timeline of events when she was coming out publicly in a very upset manner and talking about how violating it was to have her work taken away from her without the ability to consent on the sale and without having the option to reclaim it for herself. And he definitely insinuated that she was causing this problem, and that she was being unreliable, and that she was being uncooperative, and that it could all be fine if Taylor would just stop being a calculating so-and-so, a snake essentially, relying on all of these harmful tropes that have been lobbied at Taylor over and over the years. But you know what outpaces a stereotype or a rumor or a gossip that is made up about you? Hard work, talent, creativity, things that Scooter Braun could never and will never have. This saga has brought huge attention to the issue of copyright, IP, ownership from a creative and a legal perspective. Legal scholars study this case, senators are bringing it up in Congress. It has really taken on a life of its own. And I think it's incredible to see that, the odds were so stacked against Taylor, and it seemed like this man had it really sewn up. But what did she have? On her side, the Tay Voodoo. She is the most patient person in the world when it comes to comeuppance. She knows that vengeance takes its time, and she waited. What happened in the meantime? Scooter is bashed in the press every single time his name comes up. He cannot be mentioned without Taylor being mentioned as well, and that is just a situation in which nobody pretty much unilaterally thinks that he behaved appropriately. Even his own artists eventually started coming out and being like, I don't know what to say, I can't really co-sign this happening, but I also can't really speak out against my own manager, so I'm sorry. I'm talking about Ariana Grande here. His wife leaves him, gets custody of his children. Artists have severed ties with him. And you know what? Taylor predicted it all. She literally said in Karma, I keep my side of the street clean and you wouldn't know what I mean. And exactly what she means by that is that I think, and from all accounts that I've heard of people that work in the industry and have worked adjacent to or directly with Taylor, is that she is a very decent, honest, nice, and generous person to work with. She goes above and beyond what other artists do to create a work environment that is fair and enjoyable. I don't think that Scooter Braun has the same reputation. You know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you treat people badly, if you make shortcuts, if you break the rules, if you do things that are kind of shifty, it's going to come out eventually. And Taylor is an excellent businesswoman, and this is something that we don't talk about often enough, but she really knows how to dot her I's and cross her T's. There are rigorous NDAs in place with everybody that works with her. So even if, you know, there was a, I don't know, righteous grievance that was going to be held against her, you're not going to see it being written in the media or in publications because she's sewn it up. She's taken care of it. She keeps her side of the street clean. You wouldn't know what I mean because you're messy. I think the underpinning of what Taylor wants from her career and her life is control and power, but I think that's not the same as being purely motivated by greed. Scooter gives me power and control hungry, but in a way that is very narcissistic. I think Taylor just wants to be like the master of her own universe. Scooter gives me megalomaniac, gives me narcissist, gives me greed, gives me money, 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 money. And I think Taylor is similarly money hungry and money driven. Of course, you don't get to be a billionaire without being money hungry and money driven, but I think that she is more driven by a higher purpose, which is to be an artist and to create art that feels authentic and true and to build a legacy based off of that art. I think it's more important to her what people will remember her for rather than what she can get from this lifetime. And I think that Scooter Braun has a completely different philosophy and approach to business. Because again, the music industry is just business to him. To Taylor, it's personal, it's her life's work, it's art, it's creativity. It means something soulful to her. It's not just a dollar sign. Karma's gonna track you down step by step from town to town. And so it is, and so it is. Vigilante Shit gave us our most kind of alarming alert as to what could potentially be coming next while he was doing lines and crossing all of mine. Someone told his white-collar crimes to the FBI. I wonder what powerful force in this universe might have told a certain someone's white-collar crimes to the FBI. I'll give you a clue. It's green and scaly. My prediction is that there is some sort of tax issue, some sort of embezzlement, some sort of misappropriation of funds, or some other maybe potentially illegal activity. Who knows? I'm just speculating. That's my opinion. It's not a fact by any stretch of the imagination. But stay tuned, because this is a developing story. And before we get the full tea on why his biggest artists chose to all break with him at exactly the same time, I would like to just, remind everyone that Scooter Braun is nothing, and Taylor Swift is the moment. She's Barbie. That's all I have for you in this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite example of Tay Voodoo is and what do you think is going to happen after this. I'm telling you, it's a developing situation. And don't worry, you have me, your loyal messy boots on the ground, ready to report. I'm also back on TikTok, so see if you want to go and be with me on my second TikTok era, which will probably end soon. Go to @VSwiftologist with 2 E's. And I'll see you around the internet. Bye.